It doesn't start until I say, hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. What am I doing an Irish accent for? I know I'm Shane
because
O'Connor.
of your Irish roots.
It's ridiculous. Are they showing again? Oh, I'm going to have to get that spray, that
spray.
Covers up your Irish roots. It's very good. This is the Comedy Slab podcast. It's the kind of podcast that asks the question, why? 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 But we're here anyway, so stop asking that question. I'm Shane O'Connor, he's Adrian Lacey, and we are only separated by the hair's breadth in our incredible brains, but unfortunately a chasm of distance between us, because he's in Kent and I'm not.
I'm in Kent, I'm staying here as well. You're editing that bit.
I didn't quite know what that was. It sounded a bit like Rob Brydon's Small Man in a Box, didn't it?
Yeah, only he does it so much better.
All right, nasty. If you've not heard the podcast before, where have you been? Come on, we've been flogging ourselves. Flogging our guts out. Oh, naughty Francis.
Speak to Francis. What's this? Some tour around the comedians of Britain.
Round the horn. You can tell that it's this is episode 105, which is why it's all gone a bit flaky, so I do apologise. If you're not caught up with us before, we review comedy programmes. We both love comedy, and we like to watch or listen to a comedy programme, and Adrian will choose one week, I'll choose one the next week, and we'll do that alternately. And then the following week, we get together, we record the podcast, we talk about them, talk about the bits that we like, that we didn't like so much. The clips are back, everybody. I know.
Hey! Do you remember when Steve Wright on Radio 1 used to... What?
I'm just going to say, it's got all very Steve Wright in the afternoon. Hey, the clips are back. Yay!
Yay! It's the zoo format. No, do you remember when he used to have geese on Radio 1?
Get the geese off, yeah.
Yeah. And he got rid of the geese, and then there was a public outcry.
Right.
Wouldn't be an exaggeration. And the geese were back. And it was, ladies and gentlemen, the geese are back. Way!
So it's very similar then, is it? The clips are back.
Very similar.
Kind of. Although it would be the same if he'd culled some of the geese and only brought some of them back, because we've got 2 clips to play now in our,
That's true.
In our podcast.
2/3 of the geese, but 3/4 of the original length.
Hang on, I'm going to need a pen and paper for this.
Yeah, you are. So if 3 clips takes an hour, how long does... take 2 men to do 1 show with 2 clips in 45 minutes. No, that doesn't make sense.
If it takes a man a week to walk a fortnight, how many grapes in a barrel of eggs? That's the question that we all want answered. So it was my turn to choose last week. Although I keep being a father now. I haven't joined the priesthood. I've had a son. My son doesn't say last week, he says last.
I'm pleased to know he does it properly, like a good southerner.
Do you know who I blame?
Your wife.
Mr. Tumble.
Oh, Justin.
Yeah, Justin Fletcher.
Just in time.
I think it's because he says last.
Justin Fletcher, you've been sentenced to... Oh, no, it's a different guy.
Norman Justin Fletcher. Yeah, I do. I think.
Oh, that's good. Good. Well, it shows the influence of TV over and above parents.
Well, it's just he started to make me say last as well now, which is quite interesting. But I say it in a somewhat ironic kind of way, though. Do you know what I mean?
Last.
But nobody can tell because I'm.
Well, no one. Yeah,
if I put my hand on my hip when I say it.
Ooh, are you having a go at me? I don't know why I'm sitting like this. Maybe I could sit like that. I'm a little teapot, tall and stout.
They can't really
lift my lid.
Here's my spouse. They can't. I don't know where we're going with this now. So last week it was my turn to choose, and
last week
I went kind of all retro, didn't I? Retro, old school. 19. I didn't look up when this was from. Do you know when?
I think it's 86. Copyright BBC 1986 or MCM LXXXV1.
Well done
to our friends in Latvia.
You can't
Latin
say you don't
land.
know your Roman numerals, can you? You can say many things about you, but and they do.
Yeah,
and they do.
Okay, here's a TV trivia question very quickly because we've got a shorter show now. In which year did the BBC temporarily abandon Latin script for the copyright? It's only, and actually it might have been more than 1 year before people write in, but roughly you're allowed any of the 2 I'm thinking.
Was it MCM?
Yeah. You had a bit of Michael Caine there.
MCM, XL, a C, a G.
Oh, hang on. I wasn't expecting the answer to come back in Latin. Hang on. MCM, 19... Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know they did.
I bet you do.
Go on, hit me, baby. One more time.
People of a certain age will go, yeah, I remember that when Christmas, blah, 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 when the Christmas shows were. Certainly 1976 was one such year. I think there may be one other year, 75. And then they seem to take fright and go back to Latin. So you will see Reggie Perrins or something of 1976 or Fawlty Towers, maybe... what do we call them? Arabic numerals rather than
Roman numerals. We were more obsessed about the future in the 70s, weren't we? Don't you think? The 70s.
Well, we had a future in the 70s,
but we did, didn't we? Don't you think? Everything was about looking forward and about what's it going to be like, and the year 2000 was on the horizon and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if we'd have known then what we know now, we'd have set fire to our orange TVs and just forgotten all about it, wouldn't we? Really? Do you know what I mean? It's weird, isn't it?
If I'd known then what I know now, I would have become a futurist or a prophet.
If I'd known then what I know now, I'd have wired that plug differently. And, and maybe a lot of people would have been happy. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, it's my turn to choose last week. And I chose Ever Decreasing Circles, starring... I've forgotten his name. Richard Bryce. So famous. But you've forgotten his name. I never forget what's his name. And starring Richard Bryce, but we'll talk more about the cast. We'll talk more about the programme, actually, because just a quick... One of the things that we do before we get stuck into this is have a look at the comedy news that we found for this week. So we haven't been able to do a jingle for this. So comedy news. Comedy news.
We should put our order in now. You can do us a quick Bill Mitchell, surely, on the cheap.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's comedy news.
Beautiful.
Ooh.
That's worth equity minimum.
Quite fancy me, I do, when I do that.
Well, that's a bit weird. You're narcissist. Right, you've got some news, haven't you, about a certain show that we've slabbed previously coming back?
Yeah, let me quickly look it up, because I know were you as keen on this one as I was? I can't remember.
Not quite, no.
It was a programme called The Young Offenders, and I think we were looking. Do you know, I can't find it in the annals.
I told you, did I not say before we hit record you were to look this up? I warned you I was going to throw to you, darling.
Yeah, you did. You did tell me. I can't tell a lie. But if I suddenly shout a number out, I found it. But I just noticed that their new series has just started. Is this series 4 now? Episode 71, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, you must have quite liked it, because we gave it 7 out of 10.
Yeah, but you really liked it. But maybe I gave it a 3.
Yeah, I think it was a 3 and a 4, wasn't it? I think, yeah.
How many times have I asked you to write down both scores?
I mean...
And have you done it? Have you heck?
I hate to do the Irish thing again, but you're not the boss of me.
Well, you say that, but it would make for a better programme, wouldn't it?
What, if you were the boss of me? It wouldn't make for a greater programme for me, would it?
No, if you actually wrote the individual scores down.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I don't know where I went then, somewhere in the Irish Sea, underwater.
Well, listen, if anyone's got an hour to spare, in fact, you don't even have to listen to the whole thing, do you, really? I suppose you could spool to the end, but I mean, it does kind of ruin the whole spirit of what you're trying to do for us.
Are you trying to outsource this to our long-suffering audience?
Go and have
outrageous.
Episode 71 and can find out what the individual scores were, please. Thanks ever so much.
Exploitation. What we need is a keen as mustard trainee, or intern, excuse my old-fashioned mouth, and they do the lot, not just that one, all 104 of the old ones.
Previous ones, and this one as well while you're at it, yeah.
No, today you start, I'm pointing at you, you can't, well, you could see, but the listening audience can't. I'm pointing at you because you are going to start this very day, Year of Our Lord. You can look at me like that, and same to you with knobs on, or knobs off, I don't mind either way. But you are going to start today, and you will do the breakdown before I have a breakdown of the scores between us. That's, yeah.
All right.
And for those who don't know what the heck we're talking about, we each score the programme out of 5, and you usually miscount it, and out of 10.
give it a score out of 11. Anyway, let's get on with things then, and on to Ever Decreasing Circles, written by John Esmonde and Bob Larbey. More of them later. Should we play
Later?
Should we play one of our two clips?
Yeah.
Should
we do the first one first, or is that illogical, Captain?
Well, no, I'm quite prepared to go with that kind of logic. It's all right by me. I don't mind that at all. Yeah. Clip one then. We catch up with Martin. Martin is he's kind of a Middle Englander, isn't he? Really, he's suburban man. But he likes everything. I mean, even the first clip I've chosen is quite near the top of the opening of the programme. And I think it sets, despite the fact that this is Series 3, Episode 3, it's quite interesting that they set up him as a character quite clearly and quite definitively and quite distinctly within the first few scenes. And we catch up with Martin. He's refereeing a football match. Now, because he's such a petty little pedant, it has to be a kids' game, doesn't it? Really, he wouldn't referee an adult game. It's quite interesting that they made it a kids' game. So Martin is refereeing a kids' game, and we join him just as he gives a tough decision.
Offside. Just a minute.
Yes, linesman?
That was never offside.
It was.
It wasn't. I didn't signal.
I didn't need you on that occasion. I whistled unilaterally.
That's your trouble. You're whistle happy. And what is more, 99% of your whistles have been against my team.
I've been on a referee's course. I am totally unbiased.
So am I, and I can tell you that was a perfectly good goal my son scored.
We're coming to it now, aren't we?
My team, I meant my team.
Your team, your son. Anyway, you were in no position to judge. You were 50 yards behind the play.
The reason I may have been a few inches behind the play is your fault. I'm having to run the whole line. It's your responsibility to provide at least one linesman.
I do.
Oh, where is he then? Up the leg of your shorts?
Yeah, so I'm a great fan of Richard Bryars through The Good Life. But here's my headline. To summarise my reaction to this episode of Ever Decreasing Circles. You ready for it? A not very magic circle.
Oh, dear.
Sorry.
Oh, dear.
I know. Don't feel good about saying that, but one has to be honest, doesn't one?
So we need to then get to the bottom of, if you like Richard Bryars, and I'm guessing, I mean, I mentioned the rest of the cast. Penelope Wilson plays his...
Oh, sorry, did I out loud?
His long-suffering wife. And the wonderful, the lovely, and I say this from experience because I've interviewed him, I think a couple of times actually, Peter Egan, fabulous chap, who plays the suave and sophisticated neighbour. And they're the kind of that kind of triangle of characters, aren't they? The main thrust of it.
I suppose it's effectively a love triangle, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I wanted to talk to you about that because is it? I don't know. Is it just a saucy triangle, or is it a? There's not much love, is there? I mean, it's always hinted at that there might be some kind of.
Well, they're definitely flirtatious.
Yeah.
Paul Ryman, played by Peter Egan, and lovely Penelope Wilson as Anne Bryce. I think that's. Look, as they always say, at the heart of any comedy, there has to be a tragedy, and that is the tragedy that she married the wrong guy, isn't it?
Did she marry the wrong guy, though? This is the thing, because, and I remember watching this as I'm watching it as a punter now, I was going to say, but I'm watching it as a punter. You know what I mean? But watching it just for enjoyment, not to look at the technicalities of it. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, why did she end up with him? But then they would do something and, near the end you go, oh, no, they are the right couple. Did you get that feeling?
Well, I speak as someone who's only seen this episode, I think.
Have you not watched any of this at all?
No, incredible, isn't it? But regular listeners will be less shocked than you are, apparently. But it never really appealed to me. And I have to say, sadly, as you've gathered from the headline, ever decreasing love triangles. No, I've changed it already, you see. Look, there's some good lines in it. It's good actors, loads of good things about it, but it's a classic case for me of the some of the parts being less than the individual parts. And I for me, the joke's a bit thin, that they're all a bit boring.
Right.
And if, I'm sure Peter Egan, as you're saying, lovely guy, but the character he plays, well, I mean, tastes have changed anyway, but if that's as exciting as we're talking really, we're in Commuter Belt, aren't we? Or just north of Commuter Belt.
Surbiton type of thing, isn't it? Is it Surbiton sort of thing?
There was a reference to somewhere up in Buckinghamshire, wasn't it? Chalfont, not Chalfont St Peters. No, one of those up that way.
Right.
Northwest of London. But anyway, it's TV. I'll tell you what it is. Call me a cynic, but it's TV executive land. That's why it gets recommissioned, in my humble opinion. But hey, you didn't hear that from me.
But isn't the comedy and the characterisation bigger than the situation that they're in? I mean, the situation that they're in is I suppose it's that confinement in comedy. The people are confined. The confinement is the close that they live in, and the fact that Martin Bryce has got such a heavy handle on all of it and controls it, and wants it to be a certain way. But other than that, I mean, you could have written it on a council estate and had Martin as an aspirational person, seeing the area better than it was, couldn't you? In a way, I mean, do you know what I mean? I don't see the situation is particularly critical to the whole thing.
Well, that's the paradox of what we call sitcom, isn't it? I'm not the first to say it, and probably not the first time I've said it on the Slab. It's not really sitcom, it's carcom, isn't it? It's character comedy. And the situation, well, it's significant, but nobody says, "Oh, did you see that situation last night? Oh, wasn't that interesting?"
No, but that I'm just pulling that out because you pulled it out. That's
yeah, sure, sure.
Is you saying that it was TV exec land?
Well, I'm not sure I quite agree with your premise about a council estate. It would be a very, very different show. But hey, I might be contradicting myself there. But it is where it is at the moment.
Well, I don't know. I stand by that because I do think he could be completely delusional as to that could be another dimension, couldn't it? He could be completely delusional as to where he lived, and he thought he lived in Stockbroker Belt, and that was what he aspired to be, and he wanted everybody else to have the same aspirations as him, because that's essentially who he is as a character, isn't he? He's got his own set of standards and beliefs, and he wants everybody else to play that game and come up to that mark and to be the same kind of person as him. Do you believe in him as a character? Is that part of the issue? Do you think do you think that there isn't, or maybe you haven't met a Martin Bryce type character, and maybe that's why?
It could be worse than that. It could be I am a Martin Bryce type character, and I can't see that. Interesting. No, the problem I had, certainly initially, was seeing him as anything other than Tom Good.
Wow.
Which is... You can react how you want. I'm just telling it how I saw it.
No, I'm only saying wow, because I thought I had like a kind of scales falling from the eyes opposite moment to that. I thought I watched him and for I don't know why it popped into my head, but I thought, do you know, actually Bryce is really quite a good actor, because this is Tom Good. He's such a lovely, cuddly, likeable kind of character, and this guy is very sort of hard and prickly and unapproachable.
Yeah, but they've got one big thing in common.
Go on.
They've got the same body. They look identical. That's the problem with acting, isn't it?
I don't know. See, maybe I just suspend my suspenders a bit more than you do. I don't know.
I don't wish to know about your suspenders. That might have been a Freudian gym slip.
I've said this to you before, haven't I? About David Jason. I always used to think I'd watch him in, A Touch of Frost, and think, oh man, he's so far away from Del Boy. And I used to watch him as Del Boy and think he's so far away from Granville. to me, that was the mark of a good character because it was the same body. Ronnie Barker is the same. You know, when you see him as Fletcher, he isn't the same as Arkwright, is he? He's almost like a different. He is a different character. Do you think that's what to me?
Yeah. I think yes. I don't think it makes me look very good. I'm not really complaining against Richard Bryce because he was a very good actor, rest his soul. And I mean, he could do the serious stuff as well. Did he do RSC stuff? I have a feeling he did. Or certainly he could do straight roles.
Oh yeah.
Even though obviously he's best known for still The Good Life and this one.
Come on then, let's talk about the supporting cast then. What about Penelope Wilson, as you mentioned already, Peter Egan? I mean, no, didn't pull it through for you.
Both good actors, but I spent too long fancying Penelope Wilson. She's got a beautiful jawline, lovely eyes, and then that made me think, what's she doing with Martin Bryce?
And what a versatile actress as well. I mean, when you look back at her career and some of the stuff that she's done, as you say, you know, comedy actress, straight acting, nothing she couldn't turn a hand to, really, is there? I don't think in terms of.
I didn't actually say that, but that is true.
You know.
And they, you know, they're people you feel really comfortable with. They know what they're doing. They've trodden the boards. They've done plenty of TV work. I felt comfortable in that sense. And it is a sort of comfortable sitcom, isn't it? I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to use the phrase I can't stand, but I will say it is what it is. And it serves an audience. It found an audience. I mean, for all my cynicism about TV commissioning land, that would never be sufficient to get that many recommissions. It was a very popular show.
It is very gentle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit like As Time Goes By, which I did work on.
No, it's not.
In terms of the gentleness.
No, that's...
Well, you're wrong. You're wrong. If you're going to be like that, you're absolutely wrong.
If to me, you know, the as time goes by, gentleness is almost, it's imperceptible. It's so gentle. I mean, it's just so gentle you kind of don't realise until you wake up and find that it's massaging you. Do you know what I mean? It's that gentle. It's like it creeps into the room, switches on the TV, very low level, so you can't even hear it, and tries not to wake you for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, however long an episode was. I think this has got a bit more than that about it, hasn't it, don't you think?
Well, it's not going to get commuter belt rebelling, is it, against the status quo?
No, I don't. It's not Anarchy in the UK in sitcom
or Citizen Smith.
yeah.
Tooting popular fun.
I'll tell you who I thought of, Michelle Doutrice, when looking at Penelope Wilson's character Anne,
right?
Because, and no disrespect to Michelle Doutrice, because she was playing opposite Michael Crawford in Some Others Do Have Them, and it's a different animal, but she was like kind of really oh dear, like kind of and very kind of animated. Whereas I think the way that Penelope Wilson plays Anne is the understatement, to me, gives it another dimension of realism in a way, because you couldn't live with somebody like that and just go off like a bottle of pop every time they did something, because you'd be in the coronary care unit, wouldn't you, by the end of the month?
But still the tragedy is there.
Don't you think that she just hits the tone just right with that? Well,
yeah, I mean there is subtext in the body language. And yeah, she was taking the flattery from the Peter Egan character, Paul Ryman. See, I didn't quite agree with you, but you're clearly much more versed in the show, other episodes of it than I am. So you've got under the skin of it. But I take from it, it's classic middle class despair on her part at a time when women couldn't just easily take off on their own. Societal pressure. I mean, I don't know. Again, you would know more. Okay, they must have some money to be living where they're living, but it doesn't mean that she would be able to set up shop on her own if she ever wanted to leave him. And it was a different era. I mean, the 1986, to me, looking back now, looks much closer to the 70s than it does to the 90s or now.
Yeah. I think, in that particular setting. And here's the thing for you then. One of the things I put in my notes I wanted to ask you, do you think that the place in which this is set, I don't mean geographically, obviously, I mean in terms of socially, do you think the place where it is set still exists in this country?
I would have thought so, yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't think it does. I wouldn't have said it did.
Well, those houses will still be there. What, are you talking about a subtler undertow of how people behave?
Yeah, or who the people are as well. I mean, the things that they have pride in the same way that in the 1960s the important thing to do was to go out and to clean your front doorstep. And people would say, her house, the front doorstep is always clean, but the house is filthy, or how clean your net curtains were. That kind of social pride doesn't exist in this country anymore, I don't think, in that sense. We're certainly not about those things. And to that end, I just wonder whether that to me, I feel that place doesn't exist anymore. The houses are there, sure, that's definite. But the people who are in them have different beliefs, different aspirations, different wants, different needs. They are just different people, and to that end, my point is, could you or would you be able to write something that would resonate in the same way? Is that part of the problem, that in the same way that if you you tried to do Till Death Us Do Part again, would it float? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, you wouldn't be able to say such racist things, but that, depending on your view of it, Warren Mitchell was Johnny Spate, the writer of Till Death. He wasn't trying to further those views. His line always was, "You're not going to make people more racist by having those lines in."
Yeah, I mean, there is also revisionist history with all this, isn't it? I mean, I always think the thing about Love Thy Neighbour, where they said, and he used to use racist words to his black next door neighbour, but the black next door neighbour always used to use racist terms to him, and he was always the one that came out on top. The white guy, who was the bigot and the racist or whatever, was perceived to be that, never actually won. It was that kind of, in the same way that Warren Mitchell never actually furthered himself by his own behaviour, did he? He always became the brunt of his own. He was
a bit ridiculous. We need to move on with clip number 2. Have I answered your question sufficiently?
I think no.
I mean, I think
the answer was 7.
Well, it might. It might be. Yeah, I thought it was 42, which is 6 times 7.
I don't.
There would be a bit more diversity. It is what former Director General of the BBC, Greg Dyke, might have called hideously white, and it is more likely that it would be a bit more diverse. You might have people with Asian roots in that kind of area. You would definitely have more what used to be called, maybe not by the 80s, but certainly in the 70s, quotes, broken homes. It's a terrible judgmental term, but, as marriages were breaking up. Now it would be perfectly ordinary for a woman to live on her own or to live with her 2 children, who she might share care with their father half the week or every other weekend or whatever. There'd be more of that, wouldn't there? And less of as I might put it, I prefer the mess on the outside rather than on the inside.
I just wonder whether, I suppose the point of the drift, as it were, of the question is,
yes, I get your drift.
Is that part of the problem with how you perceive it, is that you kind of think, it's from a land that time forgot, and it isn't like that anymore, and so it doesn't.
I can't really imagine I would have ever loved it, But again, there's some good crisp lines in there. Even in our first clip, just the mention of, was it whistling unilaterally? Just one little word, slightly, and it's a laugh.
All right, you got no soul. It's
no, you put the clock on me, mate.
Come on, please get on with the clip. You've got no soul. It's Martin's round in the pub. And this is a simple one, really. He's met these new people, hasn't he? He's met the new neighbours who he was really worried about. Paul has bought a house in the close, and he's renting it out to some new people. And Martin was really worried that they were going to be the wrong type, which again I think alludes to that time period. You don't really have that type, they're not our type of people kind of thing. But anyway, but he finds out, we catch him at the bar saying, to the barman, he said that, these people, they really are top class people. They're really nice after all. And it's Martin's round in the pub, and we catch up with him as he returns from the bar.
So, gin and tonic for Anne, gin and tonic for Paul. Now let me get this right. Sweet sherry for Diana, sweet sherry for Hilda, half a lager for Dan, half a lager for Howard, which makes it right, leaving half a lager for me. That's a little social grace that's passed out of fashion.
I just can't stand drips.
No, she can't.
Do you know the worst drip of all?
I don't know this one. What is it, Hilda?
When you're making jam.
Worse than gravy, Hilda.
Oh, yes, infinitely.
We've fallen on our feet here, Diana. Sounds to me as though we've come to jam-making country.
Oh, you have. Do you think London will get the 1992 Olympics?
I'll tell you something if they do, Anne.
Yes.
If they have jam-making in them, I might be sitting here with a couple of medalists.
Just to fill in a couple of visual details, which of course audio misses out on. The social graces referred to were, was it Diana Danby, the new renter, along with Dan Danby, her husband. She was just mopping down the tray because it had a bit of spillage. I'm with her on that. You see, again, this is probably lampooning me and my type, to go slightly against the flow of what you said. The other visual reference there was, there was the reference to, I can't stand drips, and then cut away to her husband with this very neat side parting. I mean, gosh, it did feel, even more than I said just previously, it surprised even me, having warned myself and you, it feels very early 70s to me, all of that, which means it's a show, I can't help thinking it would have been a show out of time by the 80s anyway. Having said that, my brother-in-law, who loves his comedy, he loved this. And I started to say it last week when you were giving me clues as to Richard Briers being in this week's homework. I started to say, and then I kind of interrupted myself, which I'm good at doing, the thing about the phone. Again, it's a visual thing, but the Richard Briers character, Martin Bryce, is forever turning around the receiver on the phone. He wants everything just so. Look, I totally accept listening to the voice there. It's not Tom good at all, is it? So that's quite ridiculous. But it's just seeing him and having those associations. But I don't know. For me, the joke is so thin. If we're meant to be laughing at them, I don't know. We're stuck with them in a lift kind of thing. But that comes back to confinement again.
Yeah, I don't know whether the characters are too big in a way. Are they too? They're drawn a bit wildly. Do you know what I mean? It's like the voices. Does anybody really? Have you ever met anybody who really talks like that? And I have to say, big shout out to the actor who plays Dan Danby, because he's one of my favourites. A guy called Milton Johns. I don't know if you've probably seen him in other stuff.
I misread it as Milton Jones for a moment, but wrong generation.
Well, his real name was John Milton, strangely enough. It was a bit bizarre. But it's probably an equity thing, isn't it? That there was already a John Milton. So he called himself Milton Johns. But, I mean, the guy has done everything from Yes Minister to Basil Brush.
And the Empire Strikes Back, I think I saw.
It's done so many. Yeah. He's just cropped up in so many things. He's such a great actor, and I loved it in and I'm sure he'd have seen the joke in this. In Wikipedia, I think they're describing. They said his thin features and talent for obsequious and oily characters has often influenced his many television parts. but I mean, great actor. But I don't know. I just kind of think, there was that sort of need to give somebody a funny voice as well, and talk like that. You think, oh, come on, no, don't do that, because you don't really need to do. I mean, there's a wonderful thing where was it when they're in the pub and he hands a piece of paper to Hilda and he said, what does that say there on that, Hilda? And she says, testicle? And he went, no, at the bottom.
Yeah, that was nice.
just kind of, it was almost out of place. He wanted to mention the writers,
Yes. Well, you did as well.
Yeah.
Let's mention them together.
Go on then.
Because they worked together, did they not? As a comedy pairing, as comedy writers often do, work in pairs.
Yeah, Esmonde and Larbey. I mean, they were the guy. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember Please Sir with John Alderton.
Duffy. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, that was more.
Guiley, yeah. Wow.
Derek Guiley, yeah.
He actually wrote The Good Life, didn't they? Well, they wrote The Good Life, didn't they? Esmonde and Larbey.
Why am I not seeing it in front of me? Yeah, I'm sure you're right there.
Get Some In, which was one of my favourites. It was the first time I ever came across Tony Selby. Which was a. Do you ever remember that? Get Some In. It was a comedy set against national service in the RAF regiment.
I remember my dad talking about it. I don't think I ever watched it. I've got memories of it being ITV. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was David Jansen. Was it? Was it David Jansen? I think he pops up now, or he had done recently. He was the postman in. Mrs. Bouquet, what's it called?
Keeping Up Appearances.
Keeping Up Appearances, thank you. You worked on that, did you? Oh, because you did. We were talking about Patricia Routledge, didn't we? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, the very same.
And they wrote Brushstrokes as well with Carl Hammond, which was a hugely successful vehicle for him. And again, perfectly well-functioning sitcom. But what did you want to say about the guys then? Are you a fan of their work? Or
Well, I have fond memories of Please Sir. No, I didn't have an awful lot more to add. But just to say, sadly, neither of them's with us now. Certainly one of them died in his 70s, which we can consider these days not particularly old. No, I don't have too much more to add. The director, Harold Snow's done a ton of classic sitcoms, that sort of era, and before that era. Oh, I just want a quick mention, because I worked in sound then, and I recognised I'd worked with the sound supervisor on this show, one Bob Foley. Very quick memory of, I mean, he's still very much with us, I trust. I haven't seen him for years, but he was one of the younger sound supervisors, certainly when I started. But he was known as Bobbles. This is Bob Foley's his real name, known as Bobbles by none other than Biddy Baxter, who, of course, you will be able to recall was.
Don't ask John Noakes about her.
She's still alive, so be nice about her.
I don't want to join in that particular war, but yeah, he wasn't a fan, was he? Yeah, Blue Peter, of course, Biddy Baxter, wasn't she? She was the editor, wasn't she, for a long time on that show?
She was indeed. Or as John Noakes might have called her, a bit more schoolmarmish, I think, was his thing. But I occasionally still see her. Well, of course, we're in lockdown now. But I did see her not that long before lockdown. I think she lives very close to the Beeb.
Who, Biddy Baxter?
Yeah, bless her. And she's...
her age now, she must be an old biddy, mustn't she?
I walked straight into that, you rutter. Right, that must be time for the scores, because you've just, you wouldn't let it lie.
Can I just mention, if anybody knows?
Yeah, very quickly.
Yes.
Very quickly. We're up against the clock. You changed the duration of the show.
That's all right, I'm editing it. It'll only be 10 minutes long. It'll just be me doing Biddy Baxter jokes for 20 minutes. No, I just wanted to mention the title music, because I always got the impression that it was kind of, a commission piece for the show. It kind of fit it fit the graphic of the
piano solo.
Yeah, it's Shostakovich, isn't it? It was.
Is it?
Yeah, and it said, here's the weird thing: it's just credited as being played by Ronnie Lane. And I think it was
the Ronnie Lane.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Is that the Ronnie Lane from the Small Faces, Ronnie Lane, or because he was quite an accomplished musician, wasn't he? I don't know if anybody knows. It'd
be fascinating, wouldn't it?
Yeah, whether the Ronnie Lane played the Shostakovich Prelude number 15 from the 24 Preludes, Opus 34.
It's not that you're reading it off a screen, is it?
Paragraph 6.
I can tell.
Subsection D.
Yeah.
No, do let
for
us
the
know,
committee,
because I looked all over Tinternet and I can't find any reference to say it was the Small Faces Ronnie Lane. But all I could get was the name. So if you are the Ronnie Lane that played it and you're not in the Small Faces and you're listening, please do get in touch, because there is a prize for all those that we show. Right, should we get on to the...
We regret we cannot return any of your artworks. Yes. Whose go is it there?
You go first.
Hugo first.
Hugo boss, and I'll write the scores down individually.
Yes, please do, and record them individually. Good question. I couldn't decide. I never want to say it out loud yet because if you say two scores out loud, I think it sounds churlish to then go for the lower of the two. But in terms of how I felt, I'm going to err on the side of generosity. I'll try and be good cop to your sometimes bad cop. 3 out of 5, but that's But that's really more, acknowledging the plus points and being a little forgiving, rather than deep gut reaction. First time round might have been 2.5, but let's call it 3. Let's round up.
3 from you. I'm going to give it a 3.5.
I thought you might be a 4.
No, 3.5. It's nice. It's nice. It's if I'd written this, or wrote something similar, I would be more than very proud of it, because I think it's got a great cast. I think it's great writing. I mean, there's a lovely line where was it Martin goes to the wardrobe and says, "Don't worry, I'm Remy trained," and gets out a spanner, which because Remy is Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. And I just thought that's
a bit subtle, isn't it? If you don't know
if you don't know Remy,
that's what I missed. That I did have a query about that line. Thank you for filling it in. But which suggests you're rather a Martin Bryce character yourself.
I don't know.
I think you'll find.
Yes, I think you should.
You put a spanner in the works there.
There was just lots of stuff that I liked about it. I think there's more that I liked about it than I didn't like about it. Yeah. So 3.5. So 6.5 out of 10 for ever decreasing circles. That's 3 from his nibs and 3.5 from yours. From your nibs. So on to homework for next week, boyo.
Yeah, we've just done colour television. We're going to do stereophonic radio. It's Richard Herring. Now, I didn't realise how I've missed this, but you know what I'm like.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I think you're herring me wrongly.
It's a red herring.
His series Relativity, which is on series 3 now. I heard the trailers in the sort of background, not paying close attention. Thought, that's a nice new series I should be across. So it shows how I have my finger, as ever, on the comedy pulse knot. But so the show is called Relativity. It's on BBC Radio 4, hence it will be on BBC Sounds, certainly in the UK. And we're looking at, as we speak, the one we're listening to, rather, the one that's most recently gone out, which is Series 3, Episode 2. That's Series 3, Episode 2.
Okay, quite interested in that, because Richard Herring is somebody that hasn't really invaded my consciousness. So
that time he did.
So I've got, I've no preconceived ideas, no expectations. What kind of program is it? Can you say that, or?
A sitcom format.
Okay.
But without, comedy drama, I think, is what they call it, which I tend to call.
It's not funny.
I'm not even lowering myself to that particular bait. That was a Norman bait, I think. I'm not going to give away too much now, but I was just trying to see if there was a name of the episode, and there isn't.
I hate that idea. You've done all that work, like you've written a series of 6. Give the damn thing a name. What's the matter with you? What is that? It's like, I'm too cool to give it a name. I'm too aloof.
Ooh, hit a nerve, have we?
I'll just call it Episode 3.
You'll find the Series 3, Episode 2 on BBC Sounds. That's all I need to say.
All right, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please say you have, not as if we're needy. But if you've enjoyed this podcast, don't forget you can find other editions of the Comedy Slab at Spreaker. Spotify seems to be a popular pit stop to find it.
Penelope pit stop, if you're watching Penelope Wilson.
Hail. So feel free to nip on along to there. It's available at all of the places as well. All good podcast retailers, as they should say. And you can catch us up with us on social media as well, can't you?
Indeed, or anti-social media at Comedy Slab on Twitter. Do follow us there. We tweet sparingly, which means every tweet's a winner. And also we have a Facebook page, guess what, at Comedy Slab. Likewise, if you could give that the big old thumbs up, it'd be fantastic. A huge, generous 6-star rating on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. Why not, aim for the stars? You might reach the chimney pots, as my chemistry teacher used to say, hilariously. You see why he was not a comedian.
So, till next time, I'm going to go off in a huff, resenting the fact that he said that I was just another version of Martin Bryce. And the other thing is, I haven't got time to spend here because I've got to put my DVD collection in alphabetical order anyway, so, whatever.
Well, is it alphabetical order or is it order of the copyrights or by first name of the principal artiste?
I'm going to do it with that famous sketch. Who was that did? I think it was the two Ronnies, wasn't it? Where he'd reorganise the library by colour of book. It's over there with the red ones.